up, speechies and debaters? So you decided to join speech and debate. It's a great way to start making some new friends and really enjoying an activity doing in high school. It's one of the best decisions I ever made, and I'm sure you're going to love it. So today we're going to be talking about what to expect for your first speech and debate tournament. There's a few things we're going to be going over that's typical for my area, the Youngstown district in the state of Ohio. And obviously these details are going to vary depending on what state you're from, but for the most part, things are pretty much universal in speech and debate. So these are just going to be some tips on kind of what to do and what to expect for your first speech and debate tournament. So first thing is when you get to the tournament, you're going to set up shop. And what I mean by that is you're going to kind of walk in, whether you come with a bus or the rest of your team, you're going to kind of come in. If you're in a school, come into a classroom, and really you're just going to kind of set things up and get ready for the tournament. Now, at this point, you're going to be waiting for your coach and waiting for the rest of your team to be getting there, but at this point, you can kind of just calm down, sit down, relax, that kind of thing. And if you get any specific instructions from the rest of your team or coach, obviously follow those. Second off, once you kind of get there, people are going to start coming in, and your coach is eventually going to be coming in to the classroom or wherever you guys are meeting with two things which are really important for you. One, critique sheets. Two, competitors' numbers. Now, critique sheets are really important because they're basically your ticket into each round. I know that sounds weird, but the only way that a judge can actually critique you on your speech is if they have something to write it down on. So you're going to be getting your critique sheets first. This is kind of what they look like. Basically, they're sheets of paper with a bunch of criteria on what the judges are going to be judging you on. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, each jurisdiction in each state is going to vary on what critique sheets they use and how they do it. A lot of jurisdictions are now doing online balloting, which is definitely important. So if you have online balloting, obviously you don't have to worry about it. But for the most part, if your district or state is still using paper ballots, this is what it looks like, at least for the OSDA. Now, pro tip, something that's really going to help you for the future is good penmanship on your critique sheets. I know it sounds pretty obvious, but that's your first impression to the judges. That's the first thing they're going to see and think about you. As soon as you hand them that critique sheet, they're going to see your handwriting. So if it looks like chicken scratch, that's going to leave a bad negative impact of you in their minds. Whereas if you have good penmanship, it kind of makes you look clean cut, and it sets up a good image for you in the judge's mind. Second thing you're going to be getting is competitor codes. Competitor codes are really, really important for a few reasons. First off, competitor codes protect you, and second off, competitor codes also protect the judges. I know that sounds weird, but there's this little thing in a lot of competitive activities called corruption. That's right. I mean, there can even be corruption in speech and debate. It can happen anywhere, but for the most part, competitor codes mitigate this risk. So instead of putting your name and your school on your critique sheet, you're going to be putting your competitor's code, which is going to consist of a letter followed by a number. The letter is going to depend on whatever school you're from because it's your school code, and the number is going to depend on whatever category you're in and whatever order your coach entered you into the system. For example, if I'm competing in humorous interpretation for Ursuline High School, and Ursuline's school code is H, then our code would start H, and then humors typically are 6, so H, 6, and then followed by a 2-digit number that depends on where you're registered. So something like H601, H633. That number has no effect on you and how you're going to do in the tournament. It's just an identification code. This is both really important for the competitor and for the judge. Let's say you're competing for a very big school in your district and you get a judge from another rival very big competing school in your district. Now, if this judge were to know you're from the school you're from, they might rank you down lower just because of that fact alone. Now, the fact that you have competitor codes sealing your identity, you don't have to worry about this because judges aren't going to know what code represents what school. All right, so now that you've got your competitor codes and now that you have your critique sheets filled out, we're going to be moving on to number 4, which is practicing and warming up. Now, this seems pretty obvious, but a lot of newbies make the mistake of feeling awkward or not wanting to practice before the first tournament. That's why they say we talk to lockers. If you walk the halls of a speech and debate tournament before it starts, you'll literally just see lines of people talking to walls. This isn't a coincidence. You want to get warmed up for the tournament. You're not going to give your first run through of the day perfectly or as best as you want it to be, so go warm up. Go practice, go get your blood flowing, and go make sure you're getting in the mindset for the day. At this point, we can kind of call it 4.5. A lot of people like to go get some breakfast at this point and kind of just chill out after they're done practicing. It's a good idea to get some breakfast in you, but a lot of speech and debate competitors have an issue with eating food in the morning, especially with the nervousness and the upset stomachs. So that's kind of why I left it at a 4.5. It's pretty much optional for the most part. But after you're done practicing and after you get your breakfast if you want it, now you're going to be moving on to number 5, which is pretty much just chilling out in the commons area. The commons area is really, really important. This is because this is typically where they post your rounds. Now, a commons area is going to depend from school to school or venue to venue. Typically for a school, it's going to be the cafeteria, the main cafeteria, or the media center / library, or if you're at other venues, obviously the tab room or the hosts of the tournament will make it very apparent where they're going to be posting rounds. Now, it's really important to hang out by where they're posting the rounds because if for some reason they're early, for some reason they're late, for any reason whatsoever, you want to be up to date on whenever your rounds are being posted. So once you feel warmed up and once you feel ready to go for rounds, go hang out in the commons area, please. I have seen as a judge, as a coach, and as a competitor, plenty of times students being late to rounds, and it's not a good impression for the judges if that's the first thing they're going to see of you. Okay, yeah, I lied. The first thing isn't their handwriting. The first thing is whether you're on time to the round. Haha. Alright, so you see a person walking around with pieces of paper and tape, taping things up to the wall, and you hear a bunch of people screaming, "They're posting rounds! Rounds are posted! Rounds are posted! Rounds are posted!" You're welcome! This pretty much means they're posting rounds. Now, what that means is they're going to be walking around with pieces of paper with competitor codes on it and basically designating where you're going to be competing for the round. Typically, how it would work is they would organize it by category. So you go find wherever your category is posted. It's essentially just an Excel spreadsheet looking piece of paper, and it's got rooms at the top, and you find your number. Once you find your number, you look up or you look to the side for which room you're competing in, and you're done. Pro tip number 2, it's really helpful to double check on the piece of paper specifically where your round is just to make sure you don't get it wrong. People's eyes will drift up and go to the wrong room, so just double check. It doesn't hurt. And also, another thing that might help is writing down your rounds. This is typically to write down the rooms they're competing in and the other numbers and competitors that are in that room. Another thing to note is that typically the order of numbers posted on the rounds posting are the order in which you're going to be competing. So if your number's 5th on the list, more often than not, you're going to be competing 5th in the round. However, not all places do this. It's just a very common thing that you'll see on the circuit and at nationals. Pro tip number 3, it's really helpful to have a map of the school because a lot of schools can be really confusing. Columbiana. And it's really a helpful tool to not get lost on your way to your rounds. Alright, so you got to your round okay and on time. What you want to do at this point is wait for the judge. A lot of schools will remind you of this, but if not, don't go in the room until the judge is there. A lot of tournaments, including nationals and a lot of state tournaments, will say don't go into your room until the judges are there. To be frankly honest with you, I don't really know why. Yeah. It's probably just to hold the competitors safe from any liabilities if something gets broken or whatnot. But anyway, the judge is walking down the hall, walks into the room, you guys all enter the room, you go to sit down in a chair, getting ready to perform, calming down. Now, there could be any number of judges in a round depending on what kind of round it is. Typically for local tournaments, you'll have one judge per prelim round and multiple judges for break rounds. And for break rounds, I mean octafinals, quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. And you can have any number of multiple judges for those kind of rounds. In Ohio, if we were to have a round with prelims, semis, and finals, you would see prelim rounds have 1 judge, semifinals have 3 judges, and final rounds either have 3 or 5 judges. But it can go all the way up to 15 judges, which is the national final round. Trust me, it's pretty nuts and awesome. So however many judges there are, you're going to take that many critique sheets and you're just going to go hand one of them up to the judge. A lot of judges will either say, "Can I get your critique sheets at this point?" Other competitors will sometimes ask, "Would you like our critique sheets now?" However you want to do it, it doesn't really matter as long as the judge gets your critique sheet. So you gave the judge your critique sheet. Now it's just about waiting for your number to be called and going up and performing. Once you're done performing, sit down, wait for everyone else to go. Once everyone else is done, walk out of the room, and pretty much at that point, it's wash, rinse, and repeat. You just go through whatever rounds are scheduled for the day, and once rounds are all done, it leads us to our final endeavor, awards. Every competitor worked hard all day competing. Now it's time to see how results came out. Award ceremonies are pretty awesome for the most part. A lot of schools have high energy. It's a lot of fun, especially to see some of your friends, fellow competitors placing at the award ceremony, a lot of your teammates. It's really an awesome time all around. Another pro tip, if your best friend or someone you're really close to places, it's probably not the best idea to scream at the top of your lungs. I know it's really exciting. Trust me, I've been there. But something to keep in mind is that there are other people in the auditorium, and I'm not talking for convenience sake, I'm talking that they might be your future judge, and if they see that, that might make an impact as well. And that kind of goes for the whole tournament. You kind of want to conduct yourself in a professional manner, because you never know when judges are walking through the halls that might see you next round, next tournament, and they might remember that impression of you, and that could somehow affect your score. It's not supposed to, but it definitely can subconsciously. So just keep that in mind. And at that point, it's pretty much the end of the tournament. Like I said before, any part of this could vary depending on district, state, whatever venue you're at. It can have a lot of different variables. For the most part, this is how we do things in the Youngstown district, in the state of Ohio, and at nationals, it pretty much holds the same. But again, it could vary depending on whatever state you're at, so just keep in mind for any changes. And typically, Tab Room is pretty good about letting everybody know the specific details for their tournament, so that's also a plus. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy your first speech and debate tournament. Good luck for the rest of the season, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!